Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, From the Depths of Darkness to the Light of Success. I am your host, Chris Swick. And on this show, we talk about mental health, addictions, and really anything anyone's afraid to talk about. We're here to break the stigma. Really, there shouldn't even be a stigma around this stuff at all, to be honest. I don't feel like, don't be afraid to talk about your feelings. It's okay to not be okay. I believe everyone's story is valuable at the end of the day. Doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. But your story means something to me, and you're all welcome on this platform. But with no further ado, I'd love to introduce to you my next guest. He's also a fellow podcaster as well, Tim McCarthy. You want to take it away and let them know a little bit about you and your show and what it's all about and what the name of that show is?
Yeah, definitely, man. Chris, thank you for having me on. I was really pumped for this. I love your energy. I love your show. So yeah, my name's Tim McCarthy. I host the podcast 20 Tim Minutes. It's a podcast that focuses on mental health through humor, insight, and personal stories. You can catch me on all the platforms on there for podcasting. I got my own app for some reason. My buddy made me an app. So you can download the 20 Tim Minutes app on iTunes and Android, which is ridiculous, but yeah, it's free. So go download it.
Well, what's the app about, man?
Yeah, you can listen to my show directly on there. I have my merch store on there. I have resources, just a bunch of dumb, silly stuff as well. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I do motivational Mondays, so you'll get a notification on your phone and stuff. So it's not great, but it ain't bad. How many apps do you have in your phone that you don't use? Just add another one.
Exactly. I have so many apps. I go through my phone, why did I download this? Or why is this on my phone? I'll use it once and say, this is ridiculous. And then it just sits there in the file somewhere.
Yeah. Add mine.
Add Tim's app, man. 20
Yeah.
Tim minutes. So name one thing you've done where the risk was well worth the reward, Tim.
For what? With the podcast?
Just in general, life in general.
Oh, I'd say just coming out with my Bipolar II. I was just it was very risky in a sense of I was very nervous about coming out and being judged. I was worried about my job finding out and just being I don't know if they can fire me. I wasn't educated on coming out with mental health issues. So once I did come out with it, it was a weight off my shoulders and everyone was super supportive. I realized that people don't root against you and stuff like that. So it's funny. It's no one's oh yeah, I hope you fail. You're oh yeah, people are actually really supportive and stuff. So it was such a popping a pimple on the middle of your back and just being that feels good.
Popping a pimple. I remember I used to I can't get them, so I'd have to try and get people to get them, but not too many people popping your pimples on your back for some reason.
Oh yeah, it's not sexy, but yeah, you're there trying to do it in front of a mirror. You're oh, I finally got it.
What was it like when you were diagnosed with bipolar 2? What was going through your head? What led up to the diagnosis? Did you feel there was something wrong with you, or were there other people saying that this things to you thing?
I always knew something was wrong with me. In high school and college, I had undiagnosed ADHD. It was the running gag. I just never paid attention in school. C's and D's get degrees. That was my type of thing, and just barely getting by. And then once I got older and realized that life just doesn't care and just will bring you anything, that's when I was all right. So I got diagnosed around 2019, and it was just I went in there and they told me that yeah, you have bipolar type 2, and they explained it to me, and I was huh. That makes a lot of sense. Manic depressive. I understood what being manic is. And then obviously I feel a lot of people know what depression is. I felt good in the sense that I had an answer, but it was still a battle. And I was still taking medication and trying to go on stuff, get on stuff. It's just that's another battle in its own. And then around May, not around, but May 5th, 2019, I tried to kill me, which I dubbed now a Cinco de Hango. So that was a huge wake up call to get more help. And then I went to my PCP, and my nurse practitioner sat there with me and called so many places to get me help. And every place had a 6-month waiting period. She was baffled because the mental health care system down here in the States is not good either. But that was the hardest part, is that's where the support came in, because people knew I had bipolar. Some people knew what happened, and just sitting there and waiting for a place and then talking to somebody. And then finally, after probably just only a couple months, I got into a place, got a prescriber, and got a therapist. And that's where I am now. If it wasn't for those things, it wasn't for my support, medication, coming out with it, I probably wouldn't be here.
So what led up to that day that you were just talking about, if you don't mind talking about it?
No.
What were, like, the thoughts going through your head? Like, were you I know I get thoughts sometimes still to this day, like, I didn't fit in, I feel worthless. I just made a post today about it sort of thing. Just like, it's okay to talk about those feelings, it's okay to feel those feelings, and don't shame people for having doubt in themselves, those types of things, man. Like, what were some of those thoughts going through your head leading up to you trying to commit suicide? Or you trying to take your own life?
Yeah, for sure. I always had ideation. I was always one of those things where like I was driving to work and I was like, oh, hopefully my car just flips over. Or like I'm walking down the street and a piano jumps on my head. So I've always like wanted it to happen. I just didn't have the balls. And then like I knew it was a day, like my wife was out, I was home. And I tell everybody if you saw me with like my big beard, it was like gross and just it wasn't like kept. That was my worst part of my life. So I was at home and I remember I was watching that Adam Sandler, Fresh show where, like, he sings and stuff and, like, had a song about Chris Farley at the end, and it was, like, super emotional because I, like, love Chris Farley, and it was, like, a thing of losing your best friend, and then I was just, like, standing there, and then I, like, said good like, I waved to my dog, like, I have a German Shepherd, and just waved to him, and then I went upstairs, and I had an outer body experience where, like, I can see myself, like, walking up the stairs. Such a weird fucking feeling. I always explain it like the movie Get Out without the racism. Like my body was doing stuff, but I was watching it and I couldn't control it. And then I went upstairs and I trained jujitsu. So I have a jujitsu blue belt. And those things are like rock hard belts. And I just stood there just like crying and crying. And it felt like probably like hours, but it was probably like maybe like a half hour, 45 minutes. And I just sat there like thinking about everything. And then like I realized like May 5th is my brother's birthday. Like my older brother, I didn't even know because I didn't know what day or what week it was. I just wasn't paying attention. And then my cat of all people like woke me up. Like I have these two cats and one's name's Lucille. And she came up and like hit me in the leg. And I was like, "Oh, you hungry?" And it's so weird because everyone has like those stories I talked to about like suicide stories, and they always have some weird thing happen, like a friend shows up or like the phone rings or something. I was like, mine was like my cat because like I love my cat so much. I'm an animal person. I feel like people that like just one animal weird. I like all animals. So I was like, "Oh crap, I gotta feed her." So like feeding her was more important than like me killing myself. And that's when like I like did that, and then I texted like some people that were texting me back, and they like saw some red flags of like stuff I was saying. It was like a cry for help, but I wasn't doing it because I hate being like that. Well, you know how it is. It's like asking for help from somebody is like the hardest thing. It's even just like little things like being like, "Hey man, can you like pick me up and drive me to this place?" If you can't do it, don't worry about it. It's totally fine. I felt like that in a way, but then that's when things got serious. Like my work found out they like had somebody like come find me. Like I wasn't running anywhere, but like they had to come find me and talk to me. And I wasn't admitted or anything, which was good, but like, I definitely needed to stay on help and talk to somebody. It was like a little mess for a little while, but it got a lot better right after that. But yeah, that's all I remember. I don't really remember that week or what was going on, but I was definitely like one of those weeks where like I was taking my prescription drugs a little bit, probably too much. And I was very open with my therapist and prescriber about that. So they switched things up for me.
That's amazing, and it sounds like the cat saved your life this time. The cat has more than 9 lives,
Yeah,
gave
that's
you
what
an extra life.
Yeah, it's funny. I go when I tell this story, it sounds so lame, but my cat like loves me. Like, every time I come home, like she lets me hold her and stuff. And I named her Lucille after that Little Richard song, Lucille. I don't know if you know it, but that song is
I
awesome.
know which one you're talking about. I remember listening to these songs. I have a father who's in it almost 70 as well, and so you get a little taste of all the genres of
Oh
music
yeah.
growing up and stuff like that for sure. So what is something you try to avoid at all costs today?
Man, I try to avoid like negativity and it's so hard, especially like on our phones. Like I'm like on social media. You know how it is with like podcasting and stuff. Like you got to keep up with it. Like the marketing, it's like recording, editing, and marketing for it is three beasts to this game. And I try not to let things bother me and get into like fights with people online. People are just very stubborn. Like I always like clapping back at people, but it gets me like fired up. So I try to like tend to stay away from like the other social media where I'll just post something and just get off it. Stop scrolling, mindlessly scrolling. Um, but yeah, I would say that would be my number one. That I try to battle. It's tough because like we're all addicted to our phones. I feel like we're all gonna be like our necks are gonna be just down like in like 100 years. Like everyone's body is just gonna evolve to like purposely look at an iPhone all day.
I feel you there, like, sometimes and I catch myself all the time, especially in my job, like, when it's slow at work and stuff like that, and I have so much time on my hand. I take advantage of it in a sense, and I'll start working away on my podcast at least. That's what I do. I'll but break out the laptop and start editing and creating content and stuff like that. I could probably be doing other things, but I feel that's good use of my time at work.
Yeah, it is. My ADHD goes down like rabbit holes where I'm just like just going one thing after another. I'll look up like Alice in Wonderland, but then I'm like down to some random baseball player that like played for like the Red Sox for like 10 days. Like I just go down these rabbit holes and I'm like, what where am I? So taking
Yeah.
a break from social media is like a must.
No, it is, and sometimes I try to post and just get off, post it and shut her down and look at it later on in the day if there's some messages or something to respond to or whatever. Like you said, you gotta keep up with it. It's crazy because it's the way you grow your podcast now and grow your brand or whatever you wanna call it. But and you don't need to have big numbers like they say. And it doesn't matter to me if people out there listening, it's not all about the numbers or people out there that have a podcast and stuff like that are chasing numbers. It's not worth it. You're just going to run yourself into the ground and your podcast is going to fail. I don't even go look at my numbers anymore. Once in a blue moon, like I'll pop on just to check, oh, how did this one do today? Sort of thing, like a week later or something. But other than that, I don't let it worry me. You know what I mean? Like you have your true fans. There are people that will listen, and I know who listens, and those are the people that reach out to me on a daily basis or a constant basis too. So that's all you need. You need a little fan base around you, and that's all you need.
Yeah, I agree. That happens. And for I think every podcaster goes with that. They like look at the numbers and they realize it ain't about the numbers at all. If you're not like having fun with it, it's like, why are you, what are you doing it for? Are you doing it for numbers and like money, or are you trying to help people? It's so many different factors, but yeah, I totally agree with everything you just.
I'm not even in it for the money. Like I have plans and I have goals in mind over the next several months, year or so. There's some goals set in mind. When the things happen, they'll happen. They're slowly moving along, and it doesn't have to happen overnight because when you try and make things happen and force things to happen, it never ends up turning out. We'll just let it fall into place. When it happens, it happens.
Yep, 100%.
I've been put in front of the people I've been put in front of for a reason, and just work with what you got in front of you. Let's talk a little bit more about that podcast of yours. We've already
Yeah.
talked about the name in it, 20 Tim Minutes. But why did you start that show? It's based around mental health and all that stuff. Let's circle back to that though. What's that show all about? You've had some pretty awesome guests on too.
Yeah, for sure. So I had a podcast years ago in 2013 when it was like not before it was cool, not like how it is today with the whole COVID thing. Like a lot of people's like podcasts started around COVID.
I
So
really found that the podcasting just blew up. I started mine literally after COVID. I was like, I didn't lose my job because I got fired or anything. I lost it because of COVID. And it just didn't have room for me anymore with everything shut down. Low guy on the totem pole. So I was like, what am I gonna do? But my meetings were shut down for recovery meetings for Narcotics Anonymous, and not that I go to them anymore, but I really found a niche in the podcasting world. And I was like, I really want to share other stories. It doesn't even
yeah.
have to be about addictions or thing about anything really, man, and it's fun to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. So
Sorry to
yeah.
cut you off there.
Oh, no, not at all. It was relevant. So yeah, I did a podcast 2013 with my buddy Bill, and it was called like Bill and Tim's Bogus Podcast. And it was just about like nothing. So 2019, like 2018, 2019, I like thought about wanting to do a podcast. It was like always in my head, but it was one of those like pipe dreams where I was like, yeah, I'll do it one day. Oh yeah, I'll do it then. But because I didn't want to be another like straight white bald dude with a beard doing a podcast about nothing. You know what I mean? So I was like, I want to do something. So around the time of like when I started getting like I started becoming better with like my life and just everything, like taking care of myself. That's when I started to like be like, all right, I want to do a podcast. I was like, I want to make sure I got like a logo, like theme song. I don't want to do it half-ass. Like I just didn't want to like, go into it like that. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, I might do it on like mental health. And like, I didn't like, we don't reinvent the wheel, but like I Googled it and there wasn't like a lot out there. And I was like, oh, that would be fun. And I just have such a weird like humor, like dark humor that I was like, if I made it like a comedic, like mental health podcast, I feel like that would be a little bit easier. It's, I always try to say, break the stigma by cracking a smile. And because I feel like more people will be into it if they can laugh about it. Because you talk to mental health in front of people, they're always like, ugh. But if you do like that, like not deprecating, but like that self awareness, like comedy about like mental health, they like feel like they're in on the joke, which is good. So the name, I don't know like why it started because I think with the whole ADHD thing, I was like, I just want to make it 20 minutes because like a lot of people don't listen to podcasts, and I feel like a 20-minute one would be like ideal for people that don't do it. So I'm always like, yeah, listen to it on the toilet or you're driving to CVS or something. Throw it on then. So yeah, the name came just from my name. So my buddy was helping me out with it. I was like, Timmy, 20 minutes. Like we just did all this stuff. He's like, oh, about 20 Tim minutes. I was like, yeah, on Tuesdays episodes, I do 20-minute episodes that I just talk about like mental health, like whether it's me or something in the news or a topic that people give to me. And then I started doing interviews on Thursdays. I took a little bit of a break because, dude, you know how it is editing those and getting those out. Like I had a bunch ready, but then like I would be like, oh, I got to get this one done by Thursday. And it's like Tuesday. And I was just like driving myself crazy. So like I had to take a mental health break from my mental health break podcast. But yeah, the interviews on Thursdays are great. I've had a lot of great guests. My first interview was on postpartum depression. And again, I am a straight white, bald Caucasian without kids. So I had no business talking about a woman's body, but we had such a good time. And she said I did a great job. Like I'm so innocent in my question asking that I was like, is there a prepartum depression? And she was like, she just laughed because I asked those questions that like a little kid would ask, but I do it in such like a positive manner because one of the best things I heard about podcasting was like, ask questions like you're the listener. And I knew exactly what he meant. And it was this guy, Tony Grebmeyer, that I interviewed. It was great. But yeah, I've interviewed like Al Snow, former like pro wrestler. I've interviewed John's Crazy Socks. It's an owner that has Down syndrome. Talked to his dad, and he was like, the easiest thing in my life was raising a son with Down syndrome. But he's like so much more behind the scenes, and he talked about like his personal life and like all the mental health problems they had. I just had a adult porn star, Felicity Feline, on. She was fantastic. We're like good friends now. She was really cool, really honest, and the stuff they go through is just mental. And then MTV personality, Kara Parrish from the MTV show Buck Wild. And then just another slew of just like cool people. And then I have a little bit of more people to start back up in January.
Nice. That's amazing, man. And
Yeah.
you know that I like that you say ask the questions like you're the audience or you're the listener. You know,
Yeah.
I've learned that too, and I use this amazing app for lots of my questions as well. There's thousands and thousands of questions. It's actually created by another podcaster called Poddex, Travis Brown out of Illinois, but amazing dude, man. And just an amazing app for 15 bucks a month Canadian, it's 13 something American. You can't go wrong though. And if you're ever stuck or need questions, I just throw this app. There's so many. And the nice thing about it, I actually am working, keep on the lookout for it, but there will be a deck out about mental health that him and I collabed on too.
Oh, no kid. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So like he's brought out that we're in the works with that too. So it's fun just working and collabing with other creators as well along the way, man. I don't know how you find it collabing and working with others too. Like, do you enjoy doing it, or do you enjoy doing the interview podcasts, or do you enjoy doing the solo 20-minute Timmys?
Man, that's a good question. I'd say if I had to pick one, I know people would be like, oh no, I like both. I would say I like my Tuesday episodes more because they're shorter to edit. It's not that I don't like interviewing people. It's I love interviewing people. And it's funny because like it's like when I go into it, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this today. And then I do it. I'm like, oh, it was awesome. I love it. And then when it ends, I'm like, oh, I gotta edit it now. So it's like everything before and after I hate, but like doing the interview is awesome. And then but yeah, the Tuesday episodes I like way more because it's so much quicker.
Yeah, for sure. And like for a podcaster myself, I ask my audience on Instagram, Facebook, and stuff like that. I said I want to do an Ask Me Anything. I still haven't recorded it yet. I've just been so jammed. But for doing future episodes, if I want to get into the solo episodes and stuff like that, do you just pick one topic, Tim, and then just talk about that on your 20-minute Timmys, or do you talk about something that's happening in the news, but it's all related to mental health, I presume, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. I love how you call it 20-minute Timmys. I like that. I'm gonna steal that from you.
Sorry, I just shot it
I
up.
love it. I love it. I just that's such a Canadian like nickname for it. I love it. 20 Tim, 20, what's it, 20 Tim Timmys. I love it. Yeah. I don't know. What was the question?
Do you like when you're doing like a solo episode, do you
Oh,
just like
right, right,
pick
right.
one topic and like maybe do a little research on it or look what's going on in the news in the world today, sort of thing around mental health and just jabber away about that?
Yeah, I usually start off with what's going on with me mentally, and like I'll talk about just little stories of like how it's almost like a 5 minute like blog post, but like just me talking. Then yeah, like I'll just like bring up topics where I'll speak on them, and then I kind of branch off on like little jokes or like side missions a little bit, but I'll bring myself back. So it varies. If I'm stuck, yeah, I'll look up like news stories to help me out if I can't think of something. But like something will happen like around, it was like when the NFL player, I forget his name, Gage, I think, like I talked about like mental health with like athletes, and then I give my personal 2 cents on it. And because I don't give, I'm like, if there's a side of the coin, I try to stay in the middle of it. I'm not like, this and that. You should listen to me on that. I have a very open mind. Again, I feel like I talk like I'm the listener. Like one of the best compliments I've gotten on the show is I feel like I'm hanging out with a friend. And a lot of people have said that. And like, I got so in my head, I'm like, how do I keep doing? I was like, I got to make sure I don't mess that up. So yeah, like everyone's, I just like how quick it is. I like you get to the point on stuff. Like they like the side jokes, and yeah, it's like a lot of fun. But yeah, it's like a mixed bag. It just, you're gonna get like mental health, and hopefully I can make you laugh. And then I got like resources like on my website and stuff. So yeah, there's good avenues.
So yeah, no, I really appreciate your feedback and stuff on that. For anyone listening too, that's podcasts. Just do your little bit of research. You don't have to make it long. Like you said, the attention span of people aren't that long. Like I don't sit and listen. Let's say, for example, whoever's into sports, I don't sit and listen to a whole 3.5, 4 hour Spit and Chicklets episode. You know what I mean? Or a Joe Rogan episode. It's usually broken down in about 5 or 6 different drives through the week or through the couple weeks to get through one episode. I just don't have time to sit down and listen to 4 hours.
Yeah, I don't know how people do that either. It's like I barely listen to my own podcast. I'm like, I couldn't imagine listening to like hours and hours. And it's like, and it's cool though, because like my interviews are like they can go to an hour or so. So like I like when people don't listen to my show. I honestly, because it's always so funny. And they're like, oh, so is it like just only 20 minutes? I'm like, no, it's pretty much a gag now. Like that's just my name, 22 minutes. So like they get so confused by it. They're like,
So, let's segue into our next question. We were just talking about technology and going down rabbit holes earlier on in the episode here. Do you think we have become less happy in this age of technology today?
oh, 100%. Yeah. I think things are so easily accessible that like we get done with it too quick. And there's like funny, you can laugh about things on the internet, but it's like angry laughing. It's like, it's a keep you alive. Like you're scrolling all this stuff. And you're like, this is miserable. Then a meme comes up. Oh, that's great. And it takes away from the pain. But then you keep scrolling. You're like, wow, the world's kind of messed up.
It is really messed up, man. Like some of the things that they let on, it's crazy to think. But me talking about a certain issue or something that's going on in my life is gonna hurt someone. It's too sensitive, but they're allowed to post all this other ridiculous stuff. The politics around it are ridiculous. That's a whole nother podcast
Yeah.
episode, but like aren't and are allowed on, or the whole thing with Twitter, the whole white supremacist thing with the CEO that just stepped down and letting all that crap on there and letting Donald Trump just go off on people and stuff like that. But you're not okay to, talk about someone's feelings or something, you know what I mean? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And me and you both were probably around when like AOL 1.0 came out, when you like hooked up to the phone and you're like, Mom, get off the phone, downloading JPEG.
ICQ? Remember ICQ?
What is it?
ICQ, it was the messenger service. It was like MSN Messenger, but it was ICQ. It was
Oh,
before MSN Messenger.
see, I was using, I think we were using AIM. I don't think I had the messenger when
Yeah.
it first came out because I was like, too young, but yeah, that stuff was, but like back then you couldn't find like anything. If I wanted to find nudes, I had to go to some sketchy website. I had to like, download a JPEG that took like 50 minutes. So I'm like looking
Yeah.
up Sable from like WWF, but like now, like you can find anything crazy at any age. Like any kid could pick up their phone and Google stuff. And
It's scary.
yeah,
And you don't even need to Google it. You hit the microphone button and talk. If they don't know how to spell, they just talk. And I
yeah.
figured it out. Oh, trust me, thank God my daughter's not looking up that kind of crap. But some of the things I come into the room and she's watching on YouTube is like, this is going off. Like, why are we watching this? The things they can find with no problem with the click of a button today is just insane.
Yeah, it literally is insane.
It is, and I know you don't have kids of your own, man, but it's a scary world out there. Like the crap that goes on the internet these days, like with the things the people are doing, like luring kids through online, saying they're these online kid superstars or whatever's going on. It's just
Yeah, I kinda miss the, To Catch a Predator series. I wish they still did that. I know, like, there's companies that still do it, but, like, I love watching those creeps get bagged because it
yeah, there's a couple good ones that a couple people around like my area up here in Canada have started and put on like YouTube and like Facebook, but they get taken down with, but they're quite interesting. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I know that guy that not the it's like, what the fuck is going on in this world? The things that you don't know that's going on, though.
Oh yeah, dude. Everyone has like weird things in their closet. You never know with people. Like it is
Exactly.
scary and it's funny. That was a touchy subject. So sometimes I do have touchy subjects that I talk about. And one of them was do you think what is it? Like the pedophiles is a mental illness. And I didn't take a stance on it, but I brought up both points on it. And it was like there because there's no, you know what I mean? There's no there's an alcohol's anonymous or whatever, but say there is some that wants help that has those intrusive thoughts that they don't want them. They can't like go to their friends and be like, hey, I'm feeling like I have intentions of doing this in my head. And so that was like a big debate. And it was interesting to hear everyone's take on a question because I was like, when's if a family member came to you and said they needed help? They didn't act on anything, but they needed help. What would you do? And a lot of people, I would write them off, or some people, like, I would try to find them help. And it was just like super interesting to get like perspectives on people because that is like a super touchy subject. People were worried about me like talking about that on an episode. And I think I did really good on it. But yeah, there's like articles I read that like they think that because it is like a chemical imbalance in your brain. Like there's right and wrong in our head. And we all know that the right thing to do is not be a shitbag. Like we know to do that. But there's people out there that like are shitbags. You gotta don't do that. But so like when people like want to get help with those like bad thoughts, I wouldn't compare it. Again, I'm not comparing it, but like, I committed suicide. It was a bad thought. Like I wanted to get help. But yeah, it was just like that was a big episode for me. And it was like wicked touchy.
And that's amazing that you can have these talks, and I think we need to have those talks, you know what I mean? Don't be afraid to have those talks around those subjects. It is a touchy subject for
Yeah.
sure, because lots of people may you never know, okay, are they gonna write me off as an individual for talking about this? Or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, the thoughts that probably go through your head too doing that episode were probably like, what's going through your head too doing it? But at the end of the day, it's okay to have these chats. It's okay to have those talks, and it's okay to have everyone's allowed to have an opinion, man, like, and there is no right or wrong opinion in my mind, you know what I mean? But you're right, though, don't do those things, those bad things, you can't do them though, but if you want help, there is help out there for those types of people, unfortunately, but I don't know if I could come to the grips to hang out with someone if I knew someone though too, because I have children of my own. Do you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
where my brain goes. I'm just on the fence, all right? Yes, you did wrong. I don't know if I could forgive you if it was ever one of my kids or someone that I knew or anyone in general, but there is help out there. Go get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one thing to talk about getting help, but that's like the hardest thing. It's you got to do it. What's best for you and what's best for other people. So you just got to
It's
bite the
just like
bullet and go.
admitting like an addiction of with anything, drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex, whatever it is. You have to admit you're powerless over something before you can go to the next steps or anything. You have to admit that to yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
Before we wrap it up though and everything, if humans came with a warning label, Tim, what would yours say?
Oh man, that's a great question. I would say like we'll lash out at any minute, but I think one was like don't. I'm trying to word this pretty good. It's because I don't do well if I'm hungry, if I'm tired, or I have to take a shit. So it's if those three things, let's make sure you're not in his way if he has to do one of those three things. If Tim McCarthy has to do one of the following, stand.
I love it, man. I love it, dude.
Yeah, that's when I'm like, don't talk to me. Like, I gotta go to bed. I gotta eat. And if I'm in a car, someone's like trying to talk to me, I'm like, dude, shut up. I gotta take a shit. Let me fucking hurry up. Like, just shut up. Those three things I get. I'm like, dude, don't mess with me.
Don't mess with Tim, guys. If he has to do one of those three things he just mentioned,
Yep.
else we're in deep dog doo doo, man. Before we go, Tim, I'd just like to say thank you so much for coming on the show, and everyone out there listening to this episode, go follow Tim over on Instagram at 20 Tim Minutes. He's on all podcasting platforms. I do believe he's on YouTube as well.
Yep.
And also, where can they find you though? What's the socials and stuff like that, Tim, for anyone that
Yeah, it's pretty easy. So it's only one M. So it's 20 Tim minutes. So it's like a combination of Tim and minutes, but only one M. And yeah, you can find me anywhere if you just Google it. All my social media handles are exact same thing. That's if anyone that's a podcaster, that's my biggest suggestion is go on every social media and try to get the same username. So it's a lot easier for other people. So like I have a Pinterest. I don't use the Pinterest. I just have my username on there. So like I just try to steal all of them before somebody else comes, unless there's like a 10-minute TED podcast that I have to fight maybe 21 Tim minutes or something. So you're going to battle those people. But yeah, you can find me anywhere on that, like 20timminutes.com. I got my own app. Yeah, you can pretty much find me anywhere. I'm on easy to find.
That's amazing, man, and I truly appreciate you coming on the show, and guys, head over to Tim's podcast on Apple or wherever you guys listen. Leave him a review. It really helps us podcasters out to grow and push us out to other people. I don't ask much, but I do ask. Leave a little review and head
Yep.
over to the podcast YouTube page of mine and Tim's. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button and listen to our shows wherever you can. But thank you again for coming on the show today, Tim.
Chris, thank you so much. This is a lot of fun. You're the man, dude. I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much, man, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.